Hey folks, Pete Beck with the River Kings, and today's video is all about outfitting. This is my Liquidlogic RMX 86, amazing boat. I had to do a little outfitting in here to get it to really fit my body, to get it to perform like I wanted it to, and to get it to feel like I wanted it to. Had some requests to show what I did to the boat, and then I also got a neat request. What am I actually looking for when I outfit my boat? What am I trying to achieve with the outfitting? Thought it was a great question. So I'm going to kind of go over what I did in this boat to get it right, and what I'm looking for in general, and maybe even what I like about some of the different brands, and we'll just go from there. So if you watch the channel, you'll know that I am no stranger to a Liquidlogic boat or the outfitting that's in them. And most of the time when I get a Liquidlogic boat, I know exactly where to set the bulkhead, where to put the hip shims, how many hip shims to put in. I just know how to get a good fit in this boat. This one was a little more of a challenge. It was the first Liquidlogic that was so for me, but I've got it feeling really good right now and performing really good right now. So when I first got the boat and paddled it, I liked it, but every now and then I didn't like it. And what was happening is I would either hit the most amazing line, I would hit that sweet spot, or the boat seemed to have a mind of its own. And very quickly I realized I'm not in this boat like I should be. I'm not connected to the boat. And the little nuances that I was able to normally feel and correct out, I wasn't able to do that. So the boat, when it started to go and do something a little squirrely, I couldn't correct it in time, and it would really get a little bit further away from me than I like. And so it went from either the best line ever or why in the world did this boat just do that? So yeah, I had to adjust some things. Not a big deal. Feels great now. Let me show you what I did. So in these modern boats, the rocker profile is a lot more than in recent years. They're giving it a lot of rocker. Well, that bulkhead is in the front of that boat, and as you go forward into that rocker, it would kind of lean that bulkhead more vertical, or maybe even a little bit further back, or at least that's how it feels to your foot. I like my bulkhead forward a little bit so that my natural foot position makes contact with that. If the bulkhead's too vertical, then my foot, my toes hitting the bulkhead, but my heel is not engaging, the middle of my foot's not engaging. And when you want to get a tight fit in a boat, that starts putting a lot of back pressure in your ankles, and it just doesn't feel good on your heels. So I had to do a couple things, and I wanted to get that foot block position less vertical, more toe forward, heel back. That way my whole foot can make contact with it. Let me show you what I did. This is a crude example of what I cut, but basically it mirrors like a dagger foot block. Thin at the top, fat at the bottom. This goes up, this would be the left side, and this would go behind the foam that Liquidlogic gives you, against the plastic bulkhead behind the foam, and that allowed me to keep a better angle with my foot. So what I found is the way my feet engaged with the bulkhead here is that it was kind of at the bar below, so even though it was just my toes hitting, when I would push on that, it would flex a little bit away the wrong direction. And that was increasing the problem. Even with the foam block back there, it would still flex, and it wasn't keeping it where I needed to go. So what I did is lowered this aluminum bar as far as I could, where it still wouldn't interfere with the crush block of foam up there that this track slides in and out of. I drilled this hole lower, and I've made 2 more tracks here. And with that lowered, it's centered where I was putting pressure on the bulkhead. So I was getting no flex out of the bulkhead. It would just stay where it was. It would not flex that way or that way. All the pressure was hitting in the right place. And that solved that issue for me. And since I had extra parts laying around, I also put a slight angle with this. I put it in vise and bent it a slight angle forward, where it kind of held that forward position a little bit. And maybe it was overkill, but I had some parts, so I wanted to do it anyway. And now I have a bulkhead that doesn't flex, that's where it needs to be, and also has the right angle to make my foot comfortable. This is the first Liquidlogic I had to do this on, and it works fantastic now. just part of that high rocker profile, I think. And so maybe something they can take a look at moving in the future, getting a less vertical foot plate, a little more forward like some of the other brands, Zet, Dagger, Jackson. They've all got kind of a forward foot plate. Feels so much better. Another issue I had with this boat is that it's a bigger boat, especially right here with a lot of leg room. And that left me way down in the boat. And I felt myself having to reach over to do vertical strokes and kind of like paddling above the boat a little bit. I didn't like that. So I had this old seat pad here, and I move it around from time to time between boats that need a seat pad, like say an old school Liquidlogic Session, or maybe an old Rockstar that didn't have a seat pad. Well, it fit in here good. I put it in there, it felt great. So I just drilled a few holes in the seat pan and the outfitting below, put a couple push tree rivets in there. And then also I put this little hook screwed into the seat pan. The pad had this little bungee that just fits over there. So this stays in place. If I take a swim, I believe it's still gonna be there. But this gets me up and out of the boat just enough where I'm not feeling like I can't paddle over the side. Now I can reach over as I need to. I can do what I need to do. Boat feels a lot better. And that brings me to the third and probably the most important point for fit for me on this boat. This boat being so tall in the front of the cockpit, it left me as a short person with really vertical bent knees. And that left just the outside of my knees kind of contacting with the boat. And I wasn't really able to get a good fit off this thigh hook here. And just my legs were flopping around. I was coming out. To get in there tight enough, I was just mashing myself in the boat to try to get it to work. Didn't work, so what I did is I took out the stock foam that comes back here and installed Jackson's bee's knees. And if you can see that, there's extra lump of padding at the bottom of the top, and your leg really, your leg right in there just gets snugged up. And it doesn't have to be super tight. That really contours the shape of my leg in that area and allows for a really good fit. So Jackson bee's knees allow me to get the fit I needed. That seat pad being in there raised me up, also straightened my knees out just enough where now it felt right. So again, this isn't really a defect in the boat, it's just my body didn't work with this boat, so I had to adjust it. Now with those three things changed, it feels like a completely different boat, And it stays right on me. I feel like I can control it. It doesn't have the weirdness or the getting away from me feeling that it did when I was loose and floppy in there. This brings me to the next point of contact, which is these hip pads. So you can see the top is fatter or wider than the bottom, and it's that way on purpose. You don't want to just mash yourself between the sidewalls of your kayak. While that can be beneficial compared to being loose in the kayak, it can also be uncomfortable. Having the proper fit using these kind of pads is important. Let me show you where I keep mine. So I like to put this seam right here on the crease where my leg joins my waist, my hip there. And when it's sitting in the boat properly like that, it's tight and snug, but it's also disallows me from popping out of the boat when I don't want to. And that allows me to control the boat with my hips, and is just a good fit. So that's how I addressed the issues here on the RMX 86. And what was I trying to achieve? What am I looking for when I outfit a boat? What I was trying to achieve with all this is a feeling of connectedness to the boat. I don't want to feel uncomfortably tight and just crammed and jammed in there. That's not the point for me. The point for me is multiple points of contact that are very snug, but comfortably snug. Snug in the right ways, snug in the right places, that allow me to control all the nuances of the boat for edging, for boat angle, for everything that you do in the boat. It should be kind of an extension of your body. And when that is achieved, when you feel that, it's an amazing thing. When it's loose, it's no good. When it's too tight, you can still achieve some of that connectedness, but it comes with a price of decreased longevity of paddling. In other words, that's a fancy word for I got to get out of the boat. I am uncomfortable. When your boat becomes uncomfortable to you, you're not going to enjoy paddling that boat, especially in the long term. You're going to start looking for a different boat. Having a boat that is very comfortable and connected to your body at the same time, very important. And Let me sit in the boat and show you how this all worked. All right, I'm in the boat. I'm gonna show you how I run the boat, how I like the outfitting, kind of the level of tightness I'm looking for. This is a little bit subjective, but at least it'll make sense, hopefully, why I did what I did and what I was trying to achieve. So to start, we'll just look at that foot block down there. And as you can see, my foot is comfortable. I know it may be hard to see really good, but I'm making contact as I push forward there with the entire foot block from my heel up to my toes. It feels wonderful down there. So there's no part of my foot that's not just toe like this, it's my whole foot is making an engagement. And when I press forward, there's nothing flexing underneath my heel or flexing over my toe. It just is, it's just providing the perfect resistance to be in there nice and tight. All right, and moving on to the thigh hooks that I worked. So the bee's knees are right there. And as you can see, this does not provide a lot of engagement with my body. However, if you can see that extra kind of lump of padding they have in the bee's knees, and again on the back side, that is providing a lot of good engagement. I can't get my knee out of that unless I want it to. And that's a good point to make. How tight is too tight? Well, just simply push my knee forward a little bit. About as hard as I can get out. But until I want that to happen, I'm in the boat comfortably, I'm tight, I can just engage that leg and it's not going anywhere. But I'm not putting my leg to sleep. It's tight in the right places. It's getting over my knee enough. My legs are in there enough. Everything's supported, it feels great. But I'm not just crammed into this boat so tight that it's making everything go to sleep. The top of that hip pad right there is right on top of my hip joint and where my leg comes out. And it kind of holds my hips from rising up there. I don't know if you can see that happening. So it's not just pushing in on my leg, it's providing a little bit of grab on the top of my hip leg joint in that area. And it kind of keeps me in place. Just being tight isn't doing what you want to do. It's important to be tighter in here, but just being tight isn't enough to keep you where you want to be. You don't want this thing to get pulled off of you. So if the water pulls the boat directly away from my body, that hip pad is engaging right there with my leg and with my hip joint. And it just kind of keeps you really snug in here. So I think the connection that you get to your boat from properly fitted thigh hooks and hip pads is a lot more important than people give you credit for. This is what keeps the boat on your body. This is what allows you to just a flick of the hips to just kind of keep driving that boat in the direction you need it to go. All that comes from those two pieces being properly fitted. You want your back band in a good position to be comfortable. Of course, your foot blocks have to be in the right place and comfortable. But really, I think most people derive their fit comfort or their confidence in their fit. They get that from the feeling that these two things give you, the thigh hooks and the hip pads. And if those two things aren't working together and correctly, it's really hard to stay connected to the boat. And so that only leaves the seat pad, and I know it's impossible for you to see from a video the difference between seat pad to no seat pad or what this is doing for me. I'm in the boat and I'm able to get over the side of the boat a lot better from being up just a half an inch. Just being down a half an inch more, I started hitting the sidewalls versus being able to lean over the boat like you want. So something to think about, are you able to get out and over the boat enough to paddle it correctly? All that can be important. And so hopefully that makes sense what I had to do to make the RMX work for me and what I'm looking for when I'm outfitting a boat for myself. And this boat feels amazing now. Not only does it paddle amazing, not only is it delivering me the potential to paddle really well, but now I can maximize that potential and actually turn it into results by keeping control of the boat. A lot of times when a boat starts getting out of control, if you can't pull it back just right there when it starts going, you can feel this as you get better as a kayaker. Something's happening, you just correct that edging or just correct that boat angle or whatever you need to do with that boat. When it's loose on you, you can't make that correction, and little things turn into big things quickly in kayaking. Perfect example of this is edging. If you go into a big cross current and don't lift your right edge, water's coming to your right side of the boat, it'll start loading on the side of your boat. And once it pushes that boat a little bit, now the boat really loads up, your window shaded, and wondering what happened. However, If you can feel some load happening, or if you can see it and you just tweak that boat a little bit, you've offset the effect that water's gonna have on your boat. A boat that's loose on you doesn't allow you to do that in micro nuanced ways. It only allows you to make big macro adjustments, and you just turn into a reactive boater. You're not very smooth, and it kills your flow on the water. Having that boat connected to your body, doing what you want to do at all times, crucial, monumentally important. So do spend some time getting your boat outfitted. Proper outfitting, to me, equals comfort. If it's properly outfitted, it feels good and it's comfortable. So that's what I'm shooting for. I haven't talked much about seat position and that sort of thing. That's part of it. That is so much more subjective as to what type of paddler you are, your body type, your size, your height, your weight. Do you like to drive the boats, or do you like to steer from the rear? Do you like to make the most of the newer modern boat technology, which is a lot of pivot turning in the back and loading your stern? Or do you want to stay more up front, which disallows some of the more technical aspects of the boat, but maybe keeps you in a more predictable state? That's where your seat position comes all in. And that's something you're just going to have to experiment with. So to start, I suggest putting the seat in a neutral position, right in the middle, and then get your bulkhead where you like it, get everything right, and go paddle it. Then move it forward a little bit, maybe an inch, or at least 1 notch on your foot block, and keep that distance the same. Whatever the front of your seat to your foam bulkhead is, make sure it's the same after you move your seat forward or backwards, so you're achieving the same fit in the boat. Very important. Don't test the seat without moving the foot block, because you won't get a fair or accurate representation of how the boat handles differently. You're changing a lot of things up there. So yeah, just move it forward, move it back, find out what feels comfortable, find out which position delivers the performance you want out of the boat, and everything else, all the other principles of how you want the boat to fit should apply. All right, let me show you a couple of my other boats in here and what I really like about their outfitting. This is the Dagger Rewind, and like Dagger boats, they've nailed it on this one. This is the leg lifter adjustment. So as you crank that, as you can see the front of the seat coming to the top of the boat, that makes an incredible difference for how your thigh hooks engage with your leg and how that feels being in the boat. You can really get that snug, and it's not a snug where you're crushing your feet back towards you or your knee up into there, being too tight and just mashing your body in there to get tight. This is tight in the right way, and it lets you really get dialed into that boat. Absolutely love that. Wish every whitewater boat in the world had this. I don't know why they don't all make them. Please, everybody, start putting leg lifters in your boats. Such a big difference. And let me show you here the Hot Whip from Liquidlogic that I just got. This one is a completely different experience from the RMX 86. This was kind of what I've always experienced with Liquidlogic. My body just fits this boat. I just moved the bulkhead where it needed to be. I kind of left the seat in the middle position. I may be playing with that coming up to get a little more playful in the stern. All I do with these is basically put a shim in the hip pad there. With most Liquidlogics, one shim is perfect for me to get it the right snug. I moved it to the right height where it hits that perfect spot there in the crease of your top of your leg and your hip, just right there in the money. And I sat in this boat for, I think I was on the water for 8 hours, and no complaints. Just an amazing boat. Feels really good. All right, folks, if you watch the channel, you'll know I absolutely love my Z5. Amazing creeker. I think it's the best creeker I've ever paddled, and pretty much overlooked by a lot of people in whitewater. They just, it's not an American company. It's not so massively distributed and available. People really don't know, and I didn't either till I got in one. Awesome boat, amazing boat. I love the outfitting. The seat just feels good. The hip pads work for me. I don't even have to put a shim in there. The bulkhead is amazing. That foot block is the perfect angle, and it feels really good on your feet. The back band. The only thing I wish was a little different is this back band. This is very similar to the old Liquidlogic back bands. And when you know, I have one here. And as you see, there's 3 pieces of padding on this boat. And you can see where the wear happens. Right in the middle was expected, and right there on those points. And right on those worn spots on the outside edges, that would start wearing on my back, kind of where it starts turning the corner to become my hips. Well, the Z5, just a little bit right there and right there will start working on me. It's probably just a me thing. And I also want to note it's probably 6 or 7 hours of paddling before I start noticing that it's there. Not bruising, nothing like that. It's just maybe I wish it was a little less padded. The Liquidlogic back bands, the new ones don't have any individual pieces of padding, so that it's kind of uniform across there, kind of contours to your back and feels really great. This back band does feel great until about 6 or 7 hours. Then I just do notice those two spots. There's no perfect boat. There's no perfect boat out there that's going to have perfect outfitting all the time, and we just have to deal with the things we get. I could change the back band probably into, I tell you what I liked is the Wade Harrison mod on the Piranha back bands. The Piranha didn't feel good at all till I did the upgrade. And then I think that may be my favorite back band that I've ever worked with. It was raised up, it felt good, it contoured to my back. It was perfect. But like I say, we're all trying to make these boats work. Doesn't matter which boat brand you like. There's good and there's bad to the boats. And here's Pete's Jackson Antics 2. You gotta talk about Jackson Outfitting. They have some cool things. You can adjust the seat position while in the boat on the river if you wanted to. You basically just undo this knob, pull that out, drop the screw in the next hole, screw it back on. You've moved your seat forward and back, whatever you want to do there. And then, as you know, it's strings. You pull the string, the foot block comes up. You pull these two strings here, your back band comes up. You can completely outfit this boat for a complete stranger in just minutes. And of course, if you need the bee's knees, they're fine too. I've always liked Jackson Outfitting. It seems to really work well with me. I have had the string kind of come loose in the middle of a booth. Fortunately, it wasn't on any big water, but I think that was really my fault for not really setting them in well. Sometimes the strings can break. I have seen the strings break a couple times on different folks over the years while out on the river. But normally, I'll have to say it's user error in the fact that these strings don't break when they're new. These strings break when they're years and years old. They've got chlorine on them. They've got whatever happening to them. There's dirt in there. They're starting to go bad. You're not paying attention, and then the string breaks in the middle of a run. So if you pay attention, and if your ropes get frayed, if they look like they need replacement, just replace them in the garage so you're not trying to work some magic out on a run and you don't have a back band. But yeah, Jackson Outfitting works. I like it, and I've always got a good fit in there, and I can paddle all day in a Jackson boat and feel great. Very intuitive. So that's what I have for you on outfitting. Hopefully some of this made sense to you guys and answered some of the questions you had. That's kind of what I'm looking for in a boat, something that fits well where it should, kind of connects me to the boat, but is never so tight that things start hurting, but tight enough where the boat can't be pulled off of you, or that you don't slip around in the boat when you're trying to do maneuvers. And definitely you don't want to be loose in a whitewater kayak. You just won't get optimal performance out of it. So that's what I got on outfitting, folks. I'm Pete with the River Kings. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you liked it, or if you hated it, or if I missed something, or if there's something you can add to the conversation, your experiences, what have you. Just throw it there in the comments and keep the conversation going. Thanks for the suggestions on the videos, and thanks for watching. Catch you next time.